Let me start with this. I never thought a thank you could be so hard to get. I had just secured the biggest promotion of my life, VP of strategy, at one of the top firms on the West Coast. A six-figure salary, bonus stock options, and my own corner office. After years of pulling myself up from nothing, it finally felt like I could breathe. So naturally, my first instinct was to give back. That's what we do for family, right? I didn't want to throw some cheesy party or send everyone gift cards. I wanted a moment, something unforgettable. That's how I ended up booking an all-expenses-paid, week-long vacation to Bora Bora. You know, the kind of place you only ever see on desktop wallpapers. Crystal water, overwater bungalows, cocktails served in coconuts. I paid for the flights, the luxury resort, spa treatments, meals, excursions, you name it. And I didn't just invite my brother Marcus and his wife Clara, who practically raised their eyebrows off their foreheads when I told them. I also brought my twin younger brothers, Ethan and Liam, both fresh out of college and unsure where life would take them. I figured they could use a break and maybe a nudge toward adulthood. Everyone seemed excited. Clara messaged me nonstop about dolphin swims and pearl markets, and Marcus even cracked a smile, which is basically a solar eclipse. My mom used to say he had resting tax auditor face. I boarded that flight thinking I had done something good, something generous, something right. For the first couple of days, things were magical. Ethan and Liam were soaking up the sun, snorkeling, taking selfies with stingrays. I even caught Marcus laughing at a sea turtle. It was wild. We had a candlelit dinner on the beach where I thought, wow, this was worth every cent. But then came day 3. That's when the storm clouds rolled in, not overhead, but around the dinner table. Marcus swirled his wine, looked at the ocean and said, "You know, Hawaii would have had better luau shows." I blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" Claire joined in casually. "Yeah, and the Johnsons are neighbors? They just came back from Oahu. Said it was way more exciting." It took me a moment to register. They weren't joking. They were disappointed. I laughed, thinking it was a weird joke, but they just stared at me, serious as stone. "You picked the wrong paradise?" I asked, my voice flat. Marcus shrugged. "Well, you could have asked." Right then, something inside me started to sink. Not sink like a stone, more like a ship taking on water. Slow, heavy. I shook it off. Maybe they were just tired, or jet-lagged, or annoyed at the humidity. Maybe, but I had no idea how deep the resentment ran. Not yet. And believe me, the worst was still coming. By the next morning, the vibe was off. We had a whale-watching tour booked, one of those once-in-a-lifetime excursions where you're supposed to feel small and awestruck and grateful to be alive. Ethan and Liam were hyped, practically bouncing as we boarded the boat. Me? I was forcing a smile, clutching my iced coffee like it was armor. We drifted through turquoise water while whales breached just a few feet away. The guide was sharing fun marine facts. Everyone around us gasped and laughed. I glanced over at Marcus, hoping he was finally enjoying himself. Nothing. Just that unimpressed look, like he was reviewing a spreadsheet. Clara leaned into him and whispered, "Hawaii has dolphins." I almost dropped my drink. By lunch, the whispers had turned into full-on commentary. Clara missed pineapple plantations and Hawaiian fire dancers. Marcus wanted volcanoes. They even criticized the shopping, said it was limited, whatever that meant in a literal island paradise. I let it go, or I tried to. I kept telling myself, they're just being picky, it's not personal. But later that evening, everything exploded. I had reserved a private beachfront dinner, live music, fresh seafood, ambient lanterns swaying in the wind. I thought finally, they'll see how much love and care I put into this. Clara took one bite of her mahi-mahi and said, "It's too exotic." Marcus pushed his steak around like it had insulted him. They didn't even cook this right. Meanwhile, Ethan and Liam were posting pics of their cocktails and pretending not to notice the tension radiating off the table. We got back to the hotel and I headed straight for my room, ready to shut the world out with a rom-com and overpriced minibar snacks. But before I could even kick off my sandals, there was a knock at the door. Marcus and Clara. "Great. Can we talk?" Marcus said. I braced myself. Clara started with that sickly sweet tone people use right before they slap you with a ridiculous request. "So, since you're doing really well now, we were thinking maybe you could help out a little more." "Help? How?" I asked, even though I already hated the direction this was going. "Well," she said, smiling like a wolf in pearls, "the boys still live with us, and we're not getting any younger. Maybe you could buy them an apartment or two, just something to give us all some space. And, Marcus added like it was an afterthought, our car's falling apart. You could maybe help us out there too. A down payment or something. I stared at them, blinking. Had they lost their minds? I just dropped over 20 grand on this trip, I said, my voice razor sharp. Flights, food, spa days, whale tours. You think I'm some kind of ATM with Wi-Fi? You're saying you won't help your family? Marcus snapped. No, I said slowly. I'm saying I already did. All of this was me helping, but it's clearly not enough for you. Then Clara hit me with the line that made something crack in my chest. You know, Marcus always said you had a selfish streak. Guess he was right. That was it. No explosion, no screaming, just silence. And then I smiled. Calm, cold, dangerous. Enjoy the rest of your vacation, I said, stepping aside and letting the door close between us. They didn't know it yet, but that was the last time they'd see me in Bora Bora. I didn't sleep that night. It wasn't rage keeping me up. It was something colder. That dull, low throb you feel after realizing the people you love don't actually see you. Not really. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan spinning lazily above me, replaying their words over and over. Selfish, ungrateful, not doing enough. I'd spent thousands to give them a dream vacation in paradise. And their response? Complaints, comparisons, and demands. I felt like a walking debit card with lipstick. By sunrise, something inside me had shifted. I wasn't sad anymore. I wasn't even mad. I was done. I quietly got out of bed, packed my suitcase, and rolled it out of the bungalow like I was just heading to breakfast. No goodbyes, no note. At the front desk, I checked out early. The concierge blinked, confused. Miss Bennett, you still have 4 nights left. I know, I replied with a smile. Plans changed. I used points and booked the next flight off the island first class. No guilt. Sitting in the airport lounge, sipping espresso and watching the sun blaze over the runway, it hit me. I had left Marcus, Clara, Ethan, and Liam in Bora Bora without a dime. No meal stipends, no cash for excursions, not even taxi fare to the airport. I chuckled, actually laughed. Not because I'm cruel, but because the absurdity of it all finally caught up to me. Here I was, the so-called selfish one, who had just dropped a small fortune on people who couldn't stop reminding me how disappointed they were. That flight home? Best 8 hours of my life. No side eyes, no guilt tripping, just a quiet movie, a warm meal, and a weight off my shoulders I didn't realize I'd been carrying for years. When I landed and turned on my phone, it practically exploded with notifications. Ethan, where are you? Liam, did you leave? Are you okay? Clara, your behavior is beyond unacceptable. We're stranded. Marcus voicemail. This isn't funny, Natalie. We're stuck here. You need to fix this. Now. I didn't answer. I didn't even feel tempted to. They were all adults. They had credit cards. Clara wore $600 sandals and posted daily Instagram stories. Don't tell me they couldn't figure it out. A few days passed. I muted the group chat. I focused on work. I went for runs. I slept like a baby for the first time in years. Then came the real fallout. They came home. Not with thank yous or apologies, oh no. They brought chaos. The night after they landed, I got a call from Ethan. You need to come over, he said. His voice was tense. It's bad. I hesitated, but curiosity won. When I arrived at the house, the vibe was off. The lights were low. Marcus and Clara were on the couch, looking like they were waiting for a jury verdict. Liam sat off to the side, scrolling his phone with a frown. Ethan opened the door like he was bracing for impact. I barely had time to say hello before Clara started in. How could you abandon us like that? She snapped. In a foreign country? With no money? We had to call our friends to wire funds just to cover the hotel bill. I stared at her. You're welcome for the first 4 days. The whale tour, the spa, the beachfront dinners, the $800 room service charge you racked up, she scoffed. You invited us. We assumed you were covering it all. I turned to Marcus. You really think that's fair? He didn't blink. Family helps family. That's what you always said. I took a deep breath. So helping now means endless handouts? Buying you a car? Apartments? Vacations and inheritance? That's when Clara's face went pale, just slightly, barely noticeable unless you were looking. What inheritance? I asked slowly. Ethan and Liam exchanged a glance. Clara folded her arms. Marcus looked away. Liam stood up. They used Grandma's money. I blinked. What? They drained the account, Ethan said. Paid off the hotel after you left. Bought the car. All of it. They didn't even tell us. My stomach flipped. That money was left for all 4 of us. It was supposed to be split. It was Grandma's final gift to us, a small safety net, her version of love. You used our inheritance? I asked, voice ice cold. We're your guardians, Marcus said stiffly. We know what's best. You're my brother, not my father. I snapped. And you just stole from all of us. Clara stood up suddenly. You think you're so high and mighty now. Just because you make more money? This has nothing to do with money, I cut in. It's about respect, about how you treat the people who support you. I turned to Liam and Ethan. You didn't get a dime, did you? Liam shook his head. We asked, Ethan said quietly. They told us we didn't need it, that it was for the good of the family. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I did something worse. I smiled. That's fine, I said, because I'm done. You two can enjoy your new car, enjoy your moral gymnastics, but don't come looking for help from me again. As I turned to leave, Clara shouted, if you walk out that door, you'll do what? I said over my shoulder. Guilt me into another Bora Bora? The front door clicked shut behind me, and with it, something inside me finally locked. After I walked out of that house, I didn't look back. I drove in silence, hands tight on the steering wheel, mind buzzing like a hive of wasps. I wanted to be calm. I wanted to feel triumphant, but all I could think about was Grandma's voice, soft and steady, telling me that family sticks together, not siphons you dry. I wasn't angry anymore. I was heartbroken. For the next few days, I ignored the texts, the missed calls, even the knocks on my apartment door. Ethan and Liam checked in a couple of times, not asking for anything, just quiet apologies floating between the lines. But Marcus, Clara, radio silence until the knock came. It was early evening. I was halfway through folding laundry when someone pounded at my door like they were trying to break it down. I opened it cautiously and found Marcus standing there, jaw clenched, eyes blazing. Behind him, Clara hovered like a ghost, and then stepping around them, a man in a suit, clipboard, envelope, neutral expression. Miss Natalie Bennett? He asked. Yes, you've been served. He handed me the envelope and left. Just like that. No drama, no explanation. I turned the thick packet over in my hands and looked at Marcus. What the hell is this? Clara looked away. Marcus didn't blink. It's not about you. I tore it open. A lawsuit filed by the Carsons, our neighbors. The ones Clara wouldn't shut up about in Bora Bora. Turns out, Marcus had talked them into investing in some shady real estate opportunity months ago. Told them it was a guaranteed return. They'd put in over $80,000. And now? They were suing for fraud. I stared at the paperwork like it was written in another language. You scammed the neighbors? It wasn't a scam, Marcus snapped. The market shifted. Things changed. Clara added, they were just bitter. They lost money and now they're coming after us. You used Grandma's inheritance to cover hotel bills, bought a car with it, lied to Ethan and Liam. And now this? Clara finally broke. We didn't have a choice. The money was gone. The Carson deal flopped, and you left us with a massive hotel bill in a foreign country. I couldn't help it, I laughed, loud and sharp. You're blaming me for your fraud? Marcus's face darkened. If you hadn't abandoned us, we could have smoothed things over. Wow, you really are something else. Clara stepped forward. It doesn't have to be like this. We're family. We need help right now. There it was. Help. Again. You don't need help, I said quietly. You need a lawyer. And I slammed the door in their faces. That night, Liam called me. You should probably know, he said, voice low. It's not just the lawsuit. I overheard them talking yesterday. They refinanced the house months ago. Without telling anyone, my stomach sank. What? They pulled a second mortgage, paid off some debts, covered their investment losses. But they're in default now. I sat down, hard. So the house is probably going into foreclosure, he finished. I didn't say anything for a long time. Then Liam added, they tried to use the rest of Grandma's money to make a payment, but it was already gone. Of course it was. I wanted to cry, not because I felt bad for them, but because it was all so unnecessary. We could have all been okay. There was enough for everyone if they'd just been honest. But no, Marcus and Clara weren't interested in family. They were interested in control, in image, in being taken care of without ever having to say thank you. I'd been their safety net for years. And they'd treated me like a vending machine that stopped spitting out cash. But what broke me wasn't the fraud, or the foreclosure, or even the betrayal. It was what came next. A few days later, I was at my favorite coffee shop, trying to lose myself in emails, when Ethan and Liam showed up, awkward and anxious. They sat across from me, hands wrapped around steaming mugs like anchors. "We want to leave," Ethan said finally. "The house, them. We can't live like that anymore," Liam added. "But we don't really have anything. No savings, no apartment, no credit history, nothing." They weren't asking. Not really. They weren't Marcus and Clara. They were just two young guys who'd been raised in a toxic echo chamber, finally ready to step out of it. I looked at them and saw myself years ago, broke, tired, underestimated, and I made a choice. "I'll help you," I said. "But once, I'll help you move out, get a place, get started. But after that, you're on your own. No handouts, no fallback." They nodded, and Liam smiled an actual, grateful smile. "Thank you," Ethan whispered. We didn't know who else to turn to. I squeezed his shoulder. "I know," I said. "I've been there." Over the next few weeks, I helped them find a modest 2-bedroom apartment. I covered their security deposit and first month's rent. Bought them a used couch, a few kitchen basics. Nothing fancy, just dignity. It didn't feel like an obligation. It felt like freedom for them, for me. But I wasn't done surprising them. On moving day, as we unpacked a box of mismatched dishes, and Liam cursed at an IKEA lamp, Ethan asked, "Why are you really doing this?" I smiled. "Because I'm starting my own family now." They both froze. "What?" I pulled out my phone and showed them a picture of Rachel beaming, holding up her ring finger with the sun setting behind her. "We're engaged," I said. I didn't tell anyone because I didn't want Marcus and Clara to ruin it. They stared at me like I'd just said I was moving to Mars. And then smiles. Real ones. Laughter. Jokes, jabs, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was finally home. The boxes were half unpacked, the fridge still empty except for soda and leftover pizza, and the couch was just a lumpy hand-me-down Ethan insisted had personality, but their apartment was theirs. No Marcus, no Clara, no lectures or guilt trips, just two brothers figuring things out on their own for the first time. Helping them move wasn't closure, it was a beginning. I didn't hover. I didn't impose. I dropped off a few last kitchen supplies, gave them a hug, and left before the emotional weight could settle into something heavier. Because this wasn't about me saving them. This was about me not saving the wrong people anymore. Back at my apartment, I stood in the quiet and stared out the window. Rachel was out of town for the weekend, visiting her parents. I missed her, but I was also grateful for the space. I needed to process everything, to breathe. I made tea, curled up on the couch, and thought about the last month. What started as a gift to celebrate success had detonated every fragile family bond I'd ever pretended was strong. I thought generosity would heal old wounds. I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd see me as someone who mattered beyond what I could provide. I was wrong. Marcus and Clara weren't talking to me anymore. After the lawsuit, the foreclosure notices, and Ethan and Liam moving out, I think they realized the Natalie they'd counted on, the always there, always paying, always silent, Natalie was gone. There was no apology, no acknowledgement, but I didn't need one anymore. I no longer craved their validation. I wasn't hungry for their praise. That hunger had been replaced by something better, peace. A few days later, I met up with Ethan and Liam for brunch. They looked relaxed for once, lighter. They cracked jokes about their landlord and argued about who was worse at cooking. It was the most human I'd ever seen them. And then Ethan asked, "You ever going to tell Mom and Dad about Rachel?" I raised an eyebrow. "Do you think they deserve to know?" They exchanged a look. Then Liam said, "Honestly, no, but I think they're gonna find out anyway." I smirked. "Let them." The truth was, Rachel had been the only person who saw me during all those years, when I was giving myself away in pieces. She saw past the title, the salary, the responsible big sister persona. She knew the woman underneath brilliant, tired, hopeful, and maybe a little jaded. She loved me, not what I could offer. That weekend, she came home, and I told her everything Bora Bora, the inheritance, the foreclosure, the lawsuit, the emotional blow-up, all of it. She didn't flinch. Instead, she put her hands on my face, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "You finally did it." "Did what?" I asked. "Chose yourself." I don't know why, but that hit harder than anything Marcus ever said to tear me down. I'd spent years performing the role of the perfect provider, and in that moment, I realized just how much I'd sacrificed to maintain an illusion that no one but me ever cared about. Rachel and I spent the next few weeks planning our wedding, not a destination event. No family drama, no over-the-top spectacle, just us. A beach, a few friends, and a quiet vow to build something healthy from scratch. One night, while we were flipping through potential venues, I got a message. It was from Clara. Ethan and Liam moved out. You happy now? We lost the house. The car's being repossessed. I hope you're proud of what you've done to this family. I didn't respond because she still didn't get it. I hadn't done anything to the family. I just stopped bleeding for it. The collapse wasn't mine to fix. It never was. That night, I turned off my phone, lit a candle, and sat with Rachel under a blanket as rain tapped on the windows. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel obligated to explain myself to anyone. I didn't owe apologies for setting boundaries. I didn't owe guilt for choosing peace. I didn't owe money just because someone called me family. The next morning, I made a decision. I called a lawyer and had the remainder of my inheritance claim locked down, ironclad, with Ethan and Liam as equal co-beneficiaries. I wanted everything crystal clear so that no one could reallocate it in the name of family unity again. Then I texted the boys. I added you both to the trust. Use it wisely. And remember, this is your shot to build something real. Liam replied almost instantly. We won't mess this up. Thank you for everything, Nat. Seriously. Ethan followed. You're the only one who ever treated us like we mattered. We love you. I teared up, but this time it wasn't pain. It was clarity. Letting go of Marcus and Clara didn't mean letting go of family. It just meant redefining what family meant to me. Now, family was Rachel. It was Ethan and Liam. It was quiet mornings with coffee and safety. It was earned loyalty, not demanded obedience. Sometimes, to build the life you deserve, you have to burn the one they forced on you. And standing in the ashes, you'll find yourself. Story 2, let me set the stage. I'm Megan, 29, married to Liam, also 29, and together for just over 2 years. But we've known each other since high school, ran in similar circles, shared friends, but we weren't close back then. We reconnected after college, bumped into each other at a local bistro, exchanged numbers, and that was it. We started seeing each other casually, which morphed into something real, something solid. Before me, Liam dated this girl from high school, Rachel. She was a year younger, and they were one of those long-haul teen couples started in middle school and just lasted. Or at least, that's how it looked from the outside. I remember seeing them at events, walking hand in hand, with Rachel always playing the charming, slightly dramatic girlfriend. When Liam and I reconnected years later, I asked about her. He told me they'd broken up nearly 2 years prior. She wanted to explore her options and experience life without the label. Translation, she wanted to date other people while keeping Liam on the hook just in case. She even told him she might circle back someday. That kind of emotional tethering? Toxic. Liam had maintained distant contact with her after the split, but by the time we started dating, he'd moved on. Emotionally, anyway. Unfortunately, his mother Judith, now 50, hadn't. Now, Judith loved Rachel. And not just in a polite, motherly way. Rachel had essentially curated an entire persona just for Liam's mom. Polished, ladylike, complimentary to the point of nauseating. She and Judith bonded over gossip, fashion, and ironically the mutual dislike of Liam's female cousins and friends. It was weird, but effective. Judith adored her, even after the breakup. So much so that she never stopped inviting Rachel to family events. Yes, even after I was introduced as Liam's girlfriend. Even after I became his fiancé. Even after I married him. The first time I met Judith, it was Christmas 8 months into my relationship with Liam. Picture this: warm holiday lighting, the smell of cinnamon, soft jazz in the background, and Rachel, in a velvet red dress, perched on the armrest of Judith's couch, like she belonged there. I remember feeling like an intruder at my own partner's family gathering. Rachel was all smiles and backhanded compliments. That's such a bold lipstick color, Megan. I don't think I could pull that off with my complexion. And Judith? She laughed like Rachel was hosting a comedy special. Liam noticed the tension and stepped in a couple of times, but when he tried to speak up, Judith shut him down. At one point, she even turned to me and asked if I had a problem with Rachel's sense of humor. I lied. I said I didn't care. It was strategic. If I'd said yes, I would have looked insecure. But by brushing it off, I stole a bit of their thunder. They were expecting a meltdown. I gave them silence. That was my first small win. Afterward, Liam apologized profusely. He said he'd talk to his mom, tell her Rachel had to stop showing up. But I stopped him. I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of thinking they'd gotten under my skin. I told Liam to let it go for now, that I could handle it. I was bluffing, but I didn't want to show weakness. That was 4 years ago. Since then, Judith has continued to invite Rachel to every birthday, holiday, graduation, and random family cookout she could dream up. And every single time, it was the same playbook: snide remarks, awkward references to the old days, and passive-aggressive digs at my clothes, hair, or job. To Rachel and Judith, I was the stand-in, the placeholder. The mistake: Rachel, she was the ideal daughter-in-law. Judith said it directly once, too. Rachel just fits so well with our family. You know how some people just click? She smiled while saying it. I didn't even blink. I'd gotten good at that. Truth is, it became a sort of battle of attrition. I decided early on that I wouldn't be the one to flinch. I'd show up, smile, and play it cool, because as long as Liam chose me, their words meant nothing. Or so I thought. Then came Judith's birthday this year. Liam didn't even want to go. He had a legitimate conflict. His coworker and close friend was getting engaged that day. But Judith guilt tripped him into staying, said it was her big 5-0 that she needed her baby boy there. Eventually he caved. We agreed to go to her party, make an appearance, and then head to the engagement celebration later in the evening. What we walked into that day changed everything. The party started normal enough. Judith was dressed up like she was heading to a red carpet event, and Rachel? She looked like she was auditioning for The Bachelor. The vibe was weirdly performative, but we stayed polite, keeping to ourselves. Then came the cakes, plural. 2 giant cakes rolled out by Judith's husband, and one of them had an inscription that read, "Happy almost anniversary." I blinked. Liam stared. Everyone looked confused, and then Rachel stepped forward, all smiles, and grabbed Liam by the arm. She pulled him toward the second cake, positioned herself beside him like they were a couple, and started telling this bizarre story. Apparently, 10 years ago on Judith's birthday, Liam had given her a promise ring because they were about to head to colleges in different states. She still had that ring, still wore it, in fact. She showed it off like it was a trophy. Then she called it their almost anniversary. Judith clapped, actually clapped. Rachel hugged Liam, he didn't hug back. And Judith cut that second cake herself, offering slices to Rachel and attempting to feed one to Liam. He stepped back. She looked stunned. "What's wrong?" she asked, like nothing was out of the ordinary. That's when it all snapped. Liam lost it. He called them delusional, petty, shallow, told Judith she'd embarrassed herself, that Rachel needed a reality check, and that the two of them were the trashiest people he'd ever had the misfortune to deal with. And we left, walked right out in front of everyone, got in a cab, and headed straight to the engagement party we were originally supposed to attend. It wasn't until we were on the way that I realized how quiet Liam was. I tried to talk about it, tried to comfort him, but he wasn't ready. When we got home later, he finally opened up, and what he said hit me harder than I expected. He told me that while yes, Judith and Rachel had crossed every line imaginable, I wasn't entirely innocent either. I'd been the one who told him to stay silent all these years. I'd been so focused on winning some imaginary game of emotional endurance that I forgot he was also hurting, that he had to sit through the same humiliation, the same discomfort, only he didn't get to play the cool and unaffected card like I did. He said he felt abandoned by the one person who should have had his back, me, and he wasn't wrong. That night was rough. After Liam said all that, we argued, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, like people who were too exhausted to yell, but too upset to stay silent. I tried to explain where I was coming from, how I felt like I needed to prove to myself and to them that I was strong enough to handle it all, that I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me squirm. But the more I talked, the more I realized I'd been doing it all for the wrong reasons. Liam just sat there, staring at me. When I was done, he said something I'll never forget. "You cared more about not looking weak than about how I felt." That stung. And the worst part, he was right. I spent so long pretending none of it bothered me. And maybe it didn't at first, but over time it started to eat away at both of us. I was trying to outlast them like it was some sort of social endurance test. But Liam, he was the one forced to stand there while his own mother made a mockery of our marriage. So the next day I stayed home from work. One needed to do something real. Not a passive-aggressive response. Not a fake smile at the next family dinner. I needed to show Liam that I heard him, that I finally understood. So I ordered takeout from his favorite barbecue place, the one he only goes to on his birthday. Picked up one of those rich chocolate cakes he loves, the kind with way too much frosting. And in big white icing letters, I had them right. I'm sorry. I lit some candles, cleaned the apartment, played his favorite record, something soulful, slow, the kind that makes you stop and breathe for a second. He came home and paused in the doorway, taking it all in. You didn't have to do this, he said. I know, I replied, but I wanted to. We talked, really talked. No filters, no pretending. I told him how I'd been stuck in this mindset of trying to seem unbothered, like I had to prove I was the cool girl who didn't get jealous or upset. How I felt like if I cracked, even once, Judith and Rachel would win. But I forgot that the only person I needed to show up for was him. He forgave me, quicker than I probably deserved. He even apologized too for snapping at me, but I told him he didn't have to, that he was completely justified in feeling the way he did. And for the first time in a long while, we were on the same page again. After dinner, we went through his phone. Judith had been texting nonstop, paragraphs on paragraphs defending Rachel, making excuses for the anniversary cake, and insisting it was just a joke that we overreacted to. Apparently, Rachel had been devastated by Liam's outburst. Judith wanted him to apologize to her. Yeah, let that sink in. She wanted him to apologize to Rachel. I asked Liam what he wanted to do. Without hesitating, he said, block them both. So we did. Every number, every social media account, gone. His dad wasn't much help either. He called Liam the next day, said he understood where we were coming from, but he wouldn't get involved. Said he had to stay neutral because Judith was his wife, and he wasn't going to pick sides. I wasn't surprised. Disappointed, yeah, but not surprised. Judith had always been the loud one, the opinionated one. His dad just kind of drifted along behind her, quiet and distant, like furniture that agreed with whatever room it was in. Still, Liam respected his dad. I didn't push it. For a couple of days, everything was quiet, peaceful even. We kept busy with work, tried to enjoy the silence after all the noise. Then, out of nowhere, Liam got a call. His mom had fallen down the stairs, according to his uncle. She was at the hospital with a fractured leg. No other details. So we rushed out. We got to the hospital around the same time, but we never made it inside because Judith was standing in the parking lot, perfectly fine. No cast, no crutches, just standing there arms crossed, with Rachel right beside her, like they'd rehearsed some bad soap opera scene. It wasn't an accident. It was bait. They'd faked the injury just to get Liam to show up. Rachel immediately started talking, acting like nothing happened. Like the birthday party wasn't a complete circus. She said the cake thing was just a prank and that they didn't mean to upset anyone. Judith stood behind her, nodding like some kind of moral support puppet. Liam let them speak for about a minute. Then he cut them off. Go to hell, he said. Calm, cold, final. He turned around, took my hand, and walked away. They shouted after us, but we didn't turn back. Later that night, Judith called me. I didn't recognize the number. Picked up without thinking. Big mistake. She screamed at me for a solid 15 seconds. Said I was tearing the family apart, that I'd brainwashed her son, that I was the reason he was being disrespectful. I hung up mid-rant and blocked the number. Liam blocked the rest of his family that night, his uncle, some cousins who were close to Judith, even a couple of friends she might try to contact him through. We weren't playing around anymore. The next few days were quiet, almost too quiet. And just when I started to think we were through the worst of it, something happened that changed everything again. I was heading home after work, just like usual. It was Thursday, and I always stopped by the same little cafe on the way home for a frappuccino, just a small treat for getting through the week. But when I walked in, I immediately saw them, Judith and Rachel. They were waiting for me. I barely had time to react before they rushed over. And then, coffee, all over me. Rachel flung her drink right in my face, and Judith followed suit. Then Rachel grabbed a handful of whipped cream and smeared it in my hair like we were in some kind of food fight from a bad teen movie. I stood there frozen, stunned, sticky, and speechless. The baristas rushed over. People gasped. One customer even offered to call the cops. I said yes, filed a report, pressed charges. They got fined, but that was it. No jail time, just a slap on the wrist. But at least it was something. When I got home, Liam was furious. We both knew what came next. It was time to make this official. We filed for a restraining order the next morning. It's still in process, but we're hopeful. We documented everything, the texts, the fake hospital stunt, the coffee incident, all of it. We're also moving. We'd already been planning to upgrade our place, but now it's non-negotiable. We need distance. Space, a fresh start. Liam also made another decision. He cut off his dad. Said he couldn't respect a man who stayed silent, while his wife and his ex made our lives hell. I didn't disagree. And as for Rachel and Judith, they won't be part of our lives. Not now. Not ever. I wish I could say that after all that the restraining order, the blocking, the hospital stunt, the coffee-throwing circus, it was over. I really did. But people like Judith and Rachel, they don't quit when the door closes. They claw at the windows. After the coffee shop incident, we got serious. We documented everything. Photos of my ruined work clothes, screenshots of their texts, statements from cafe staff and customers. The restraining order was underway, but the law moves slow, and crazy moves fast. We started looking at new places to live. We'd been talking about it before, but now it felt urgent, necessary, like getting air after you've been underwater too long. And yeah, we were also talking about starting a family, something we'd both wanted, but kept postponing because we didn't want to bring a child into chaos. That choice hit differently now. It wasn't just about starting a life, it was about protecting it from everything we were escaping. We hadn't told anyone yet, obviously. Not about moving, not about the baby plans. We were guarding our peace like it was gold, but Judith had one last card to play. And when it didn't work, when it backfired, it burned everything down for good. It happened one random Sunday. Quiet morning. Liam and I were sitting on the balcony, drinking coffee, no irony, and making a list of what furniture we'd take to the new place. It was the first time in a long time we felt relaxed, just breathing easy. Then Liam's phone lit up. Unknown number. He ignored it. Then mine did. Then again. Then again. Different numbers each time. And then the messages started rolling in. Screenshots from friends, from old coworkers, even from distant cousins we hadn't spoken to in years. Judith had posted on Facebook and Instagram, even LinkedIn, for some reason. She wrote this long, tear-stained monologue about how her son had been taken from her by a manipulative wife, how he'd cut off his entire family and refused to help his mother in her old age. She made herself sound like a poor, abandoned widow, said I was controlling him and emotionally abusing him. And then she attached a photo, a throwback, of Liam and Rachel from high school, captioned, "Some connections are meant to last forever." That was the final straw. Up until then, Liam had been calm, controlled. Even when he was angry, he kept it tight, locked down. But something about that post, the lies, the public smear, the audacity of using a photo with his ex as a punchline snapped something in him. He made one call to a lawyer. We'd never wanted to take it that far. We didn't like drama. We weren't the kind of people who aired dirty laundry online. But at this point, they were weaponizing the internet to spin a story, and people were believing it. So we fought back. Liam's lawyer helped us draft a public response. Clean. Professional. No name-calling, no cursing, just facts. He posted once, explained that he'd gone no contact with his mother due to years of emotional manipulation and boundary violations, that he and I had been harassed repeatedly publicly and privately by both his mother and his ex-girlfriend, who continued to involve herself in our lives without invitation, and that he would be pursuing legal action. He ended it with one sentence. Sometimes peace means choosing yourself, even when it looks like war to everyone else. That post went viral in our little corner of the internet. People messaged us. People apologized. Some even thanked him for being honest about what it's like to cut off toxic family. Judith and Rachel, they went silent, but the damage was already done. Not to us, to them. Because what Judith didn't realize when she aired everything online was how many people knew the truth already. Family members who had seen her behavior. Neighbors who'd witnessed the drama firsthand. Even a couple of Rachel's old friends who messaged me to say they were sorry for everything I'd been put through. Turns out Rachel had a bit of a reputation. A few weeks after all of this, we found out she'd been dropped from a wedding planning job she'd picked up. The bride had seen the post and recognized Rachel's name and said she didn't want that kind of drama anywhere near her big day. Karma didn't walk, it ran. As for Judith, we heard through Liam's cousin that she'd been taking a break from social media and wasn't handling the backlash well. Her community reputation had taken a hit, whatever that means to a woman who used to plan dinner parties like they were red carpet events. I didn't care. By then, we'd already signed the lease for our new place. A cozy house just outside the city. Quiet neighborhood, big windows, a tiny backyard that Liam said would be perfect for a garden. We packed everything ourselves, didn't ask for help, didn't tell anyone, and when we left, we didn't look back. I won't lie, those first few days in the new place were weird, too quiet, like we were waiting for someone to knock on the door and bring the chaos back in, but it never happened, and slowly we started to breathe again. We'd go for long walks, try new recipes, watch dumb TV shows and laugh too hard. We even bought a swing for the backyard. One night we sat on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, and talked about names, baby names. It felt real, finally. Not like a maybe, not like something we had to postpone or tiptoe around, but like something we were building together, on our terms. Liam looked at me and said, "They'll never meet our kids, you know." I nodded. "I know. And I'm okay with that," he added. "I want our children to grow up surrounded by people who actually love them, not people who love control." I couldn't have said it better. The thing is, people romanticize family. They say blood is everything, that no matter what, you should forgive, forget, stay connected. But sometimes, blood is just DNA. And love? Love is a choice. Respect is a choice. Boundaries are a choice. We chose peace. We chose each other. And we never looked back.